Mike, so thrilled to have you here today, and welcome to the NVSBC's Prep for VETS24. Um, we're here today to talk about, how to prep for a conference, and all of the pearls of wisdom that we share to help the people who will be in attendance. And we're looking forward to you being at the conference and providing some trainings for our attendees. And so I think we'll just kind of jump right into this and kind of just start the casual conversation on, hey, how do you prepare for this thing?
Yeah. Well, I think the good news is if you're watching this, you're not going to walk away with just how to prepare for this conference, but any conference. That's the good news. So it's something you can rinse and repeat and use everywhere. And this is my first VETS conference, so I haven't been to a VETS conference.
Oh,
I'm excited about that. Josh
cool.
usually goes to those, but definitely looking forward to it. So I think one of the challenges for people when they go to these is the overwhelm. There's going to be 2,000, 2,500, however many people at a conference. That can be really overwhelming. And when you look at how the average contractor works, a lot of them are introverts and things like that. And even myself, I'm kind of in that introverted space. But what should help you relax about it is when you get around your people, as I call them, it just works. Like, it's not near as intimidating, anxiety ridden, any of that. It works, and the conversations flow. You have a lot of things in common. And so that maybe even be one of my first tips that wasn't on our list, is go into this understanding once you get around your people, a lot of your anxiety is just going to fade away. So being prepared for it to melt away is probably a good thing. But the next thing on my list gets into the homework. You don't have to go crazy on this and spend hours over the agenda or anything like that. But I do believe it's really important to actually do some homework and see what sessions, pique your interest by the titles, things like that. Are there some people you want to meet based on the session, based on a government customer, based on somebody you see listed as an attendee? Or those are probably two of the main things, because if you don't have those, then you can't structure kind of the rest of your conference. So doing your homework is probably out of the gate my number one tip for people.
Cool. And I can't agree with you more. I mean, believe it or not, I actually get somewhat introverted as well, right? I mean, people are like, well, you're always up and you're talking in front of people and you seem like this little Energizer bunny, but it's always like, oh, wow, there's going to be like 2,000 people here. And,
Yeah.
how am I going to, how am I going to fit in and things like that? And so it kind of goes back to mom's basics, right? To, hey, you need to get a good night's sleep. You need to go ahead and have all of your little ducks lined up in a row with regards to business cards. And, you kind of do that pre-planning first. Instead of the family vacation, it's the business conference, right? So I have my business cards, physical and electronic, CAPE statements, check the box there, physical, electronic. Oh yeah, those comfy shoes, because we got 50,000 square feet at VETS24, right? For the exhibit hall space. And it's like, yeah, I better have comfy shoes, and I need to be awake. So I have to, like you said, I have to get that good night's sleep, right? And I have to be on point, because I'm going to be meeting new people that I've not ever met before, and so, part of that homework is what you spoke about. Hey, what kind of agencies are going to be there? What kind of primes? All of that, because that may necessitate tweaking a CAPE statement for a particular agency you want to go after, or a large prime contractor. And then there's the whole, okay, they offer all of these classes and all of these sessions. Um, how do I know which one to go to, or, which ones are on my bucket list, so to speak, that are my have to go tos. I have to do that. And, oh yeah, that agency is going to be there. I want to make sure I listen to that. Or, hey, there may be, I haven't heard this Mike guy talk before. Maybe I need to go to his breakout
They
session, right?
definitely need to go to that one,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
so
no,
those,
those are all great tips. And I think the one that's really, or two that are really overlooked by a lot of people, is the comfortable shoes and the good night's sleep. Like you just said, I'm a tennis shoe guy, but a lot of times people will buy a brand new pair of shoes. Don't do that. Don't buy a brand new pair of shoes and the first time you wear them is day one of the conference. You need to break them in before you show up. But people will be fine with you wearing tennis shoes because, like you said, 50,000 square feet, that's actually, if it's somewhat concentrated, that's, I don't want to say small, because I've seen some venues where you've got your 50,000 square feet over here, then you're actually staying in this part of the resort or hotel, whatever you want to call it. Then there's something sessions over here in this one, and you're walking 6 miles a day. I've seen those
right,
conferences, and it can be difficult. Or even if it's all together, like the 8A conference was, it was all right there. However, you're going to sessions, you're coming back, you're walking down to somebody's booth, you're coming back, you're walking to lunch and you're coming back. And you're just doing that all day, when most people sit at their desk, and your feet are going to let you know really quickly that that's not a lot of fun. And you just can't think when your feet are bleeding. That's kind of like
that's
the,
right. Yeah,
like, you just can't think. And so then your back hurting and all those kind of things. And so it's just one of those things where, like, be comfortable and you will be on point. Get the rest, you will be on point. I have seen some people use conferences as like, I haven't been out of the house or away from the family in like 6 months, and this is my chance to stay up and talk with adults till 2 o'clock in the morning. And I get it, but like having some restraint over that. And maybe the last night you stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning, having drinks and talking with people, that kind of thing. You got to do it in moderation to get through the whole
right,
thing, and keep your spirits up, because you'll be worn out by the end of the day. Which kind of brings me to one of the points that I think is really important, is if you've never been to a conference before and this whole thing is really new to you, reach out to someone on the staff. Ask them about the venue. Ask them about sessions, given who you are and what you do. Like, what sessions would you recommend I attend? Or is there someone that you would recommend that I reach out to? Or is there someone you could introduce me to on day one? Or hey, I see that this company is there and I really want to meet them, or this CO is there and I really want to meet them. Um, can you help me with that? I mean, the staff is there to help. So
right.
let them help, right? Just
That's
reach out
it.
to the staff. So,
Yep, that's it. That's spot on. We're there to help, we're there to guide. All of our team is going to be at the conference, and so, we'll be out and about. So do, Shanghai us and kind of, we'll happy to make introductions, to people.
mhm.
And kind of going back to the, getting a good night's sleep and making sure you don't socialize too much. It's, you know, there are those socializing, another point that we spoke about earlier, there are those informal socializing events that do occur, like breakfast, right?
Mhm.
Breakfast, lunch, the networking sessions that are going to be scheduled, and you can leverage those to meet new people, right? A lot of times, I've seen business owners, they'll sit with their friends, right? They're like, oh, I know this person. Again, it goes back to that comfort zone, right? It's like, oh, there's somebody, one of my peeps, I want to sit with them. When, if they were two tables over and there was a prime contractor or a federal, employee that they eventually are going to meet with, they've missed an opportunity for a wonderful casual conversation, right? Over breakfast or over lunch. And so it's to kind of make sure that you really
Right.
take advantage of those, are almost like little mini matchmaking sessions in a way, and kind of capability briefings about who are you and what do you do, and
Yeah.
what are you looking for to do, kind of thing. And that also kind of helps with working the exhibit hall floor and prepping you for the matchmaking sessions. If you're kind of talking to people informally over breakfast about what it is you do, that kind of helps polish you in a way, right, for the matchmaking sessions and
Yeah.
all of that. So it it's all connected. It's kind of, oh, and I wanted to, you brought up a good point with, you know, bleeding feet, blisters, because I'm a hiker, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, the Band-Aids. Don't forget the Band-Aids,
Yeah.
especially for the ladies that, are going to choose to wear heels. And we know
Yeah.
there are those, do make sure you bring Band-Aids,
Yeah.
to cover the blisters. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like you got to prep, just like you would for a hike in some degree, right?
right.
Of what you've got to do here. And, when I look at all of these conferences, one of the things that has been a takeaway for me is every time I do one, I get better at it. And so that's something that I think you need to go into it. If this is your first conference, it's your fifth conference, is don't be too hard on yourself. Like, go in there and learn so that, like, when you're done, like, hey, what can I improve next time I go to a conference? Where did I miss some opportunities so that next time I can plan my time better? That is one of my favorite things, is planning the time. Like, and I don't get down to the minute with it. A lot of my time is very ad hoc when I'm at these things, where I'll be walking and someone will stop me and they want to talk about the book, the podcast, the whatever, what we do, right? And you just talk, and then you get stopped again and you talk, and because that's what it's about. It's about networking and conversation. The education is great. Don't get me wrong, the education is great, but the conversations you have, for the most part, that's what's going to move the needle for people, is having those conversations. And so, like, for me on the education side, I may look at 1 or 2 sessions a day, maybe 3 sessions a day. And then the rest of my time is, where am I going to network?
Right.
How am I going to network? Is it at our booth? Should we have a booth, right? Those decisions are made for a lot of people by this point in time, but
Right.
those are things they should be thinking about. Are we going to save time for one-on-ones? That's the one big one that I do, is make sure there's 1 or 2 slots in my calendar, so that if I am having breakfast with somebody and there's 4 or 5 people at the table, I don't monopolize the conversation with, oh, wow, I'm sitting next to Susan, and Susan is who I wanted to meet. And I just talk Susan's ear off for 30 minutes. I let everybody else at the table talk. And I say,
Right.
hey, Susan, I've got time at 1 o'clock. Do you have 15 minutes for us to just connect? And I'll leave it at that. But I make sure there's time on my calendar each day for those kind of things that come up, because I'm
Right.
going to meet somebody at breakfast. I'm going to sit next to somebody at a session, and believe it or not, they're going to be exactly who I need as a teaming partner, or whatever it may be, right? And you're going to want to meet with that person. So leave the time in your day, and it's amazing how you can then just shuffle them right into that. You don't have to flip through calendars or anything. You know when it is, and
hmm
you can get that done. Which kind of leads me to one of my other things, is having something on your phone already scripted out that you can follow up with people, because you're going to have breaks. You're going to have moments in between sessions, in between meals, in between, you know, conversations that you're going to have out on the floor, right? You're going to have moments where you've got 5, 10 minutes to yourself, and you can very quickly hop on your phone and say, oh, Susan, it was great having breakfast with you. And then pop in your scripted thing right out of your phone about how you're going to follow up with them on LinkedIn and next week after the conference.
Right.
And you can
And
customize that note, and boom, you send it during the day. And then you don't wind up in a situation where you get to the end of the conference, you've got a stack of cards, and you're like, what did I talk to Susan about? Right. Which,
exactly. And if you
yeah,
don't make the notes on the back of the business card, or you don't make those notes right after you meet, and to have the flexibility, you know that I'm going to be attending these matchmaking sessions, or you walk the exhibit hall floor and you meet with that agency or that prime before you even meet with them for matchmaking. You may be able to just check that off your list and say, I
yeah,
was scheduled for matchmaking, tomorrow, but now, I can, do we still need to meet? So when you have that flow, that natural flow of being open to what drops in your lap,
mhm,
you need to be able to use that to your advantage.
Yeah.
And that's the going right back to how we started, knowing who's going to attend, who's where, what types of agencies you want to go after or primes, and what you're looking for in a subcontractor or even as a teaming partner, right? If you're going after particular types of agencies and contract work, if you already have that backpack filled with all of those items in advance, it's going to make the journey that much
Yeah.
easier and run that much more smoothly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think those are a lot of great pearls. Are we missing anything?
One that, well, there's two that we didn't necessarily touch on. One is you should 100% make sure you have on your calendar for when you get home, when you're going to follow up with all these people,
Right.
whether it's a 1 or 2 hour block or however it is to set meetings, make sure that's on your calendar. And I've noticed things, it's been a month since 8A, which, gosh, it seems like that
I
was
know.
yesterday, right? It's been
It
a month
does. Yeah.
since that conference. And I'm just now getting to some of those meetings that I scheduled right after it. So that's part of it too, is being patient to be like, hey, just because you get back, everybody's catching up on things. It may take
Right.
2 or 3 weeks to get on their calendar, but just keep following up with it.
Right.
And I think that's really important. There's a lot of value in the follow up. In fact, there's been tons of research studies that say that 70% of most people's business comes from follow up, which means
Okay.
only about 30% of business comes from what in the Army we would call one shot, one kill, right? One
Okay.
phone call, one customer. It's such a small portion. I'd say it's probably smaller than that, where it's one phone call, one client, right? It's
Okay.
often multiple phone calls and things. So be patient about that. Don't show up to the conference thinking you're going to sign a contract. You're
Right.
not, right?
Yeah.
Don't have that
Right. Yeah.
expectation because you'll be deflated pretty fast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think having the right expectations is very helpful. And then this last one here that I have is it's small in the grand scheme of things, but I think it's also important. Is just keep a little thing of the breath mints right there in your pocket.
That's right.
Just pop breath mints throughout the time, regardless of whether you think them or not, because you might.
Yeah.
And that would be embarrassing at
Yeah.
some point. So just have that with you. And again, it's just being able to socialize is not necessarily the normal thing for a lot of
Right.
folks that are in their office in their little sanctuary. And so we're just trying to help them with the socialization part of it. And if here's one more tip, if you're not good at that and you still have the anxiety, bring someone with you. Bring
That's
someone
true.
with you that's good at that, whether they're
Right.
with your company or it's your spouse or a teaming partner or somebody that you're working with who is good at that. It's amazing how having somebody to kind of be your partner in crime at this will help you because they'll, hey, make the introduction. Hey, Mike, you should meet Susan or Bob or Jim. And like they'll do that kind of stuff. And then you just open up. So if you're
Right.
really struggling, do that kind of thing, or stop by some of the booths with people that are going to be very friendly to you and
Right.
help get the momentum going. And I
That's
think
true.
that will help.
Doing the prep work, especially walking the exhibit hall floor, you're picking up little stuffed animals for your children back home or
Yeah.
whatever kind of little trinket toys or things like that. You're able to kind of start that conversation that
Yeah.
will help you become a little more polished when you get to the tables that you really want to have
Yeah.
a strong impact. And I think the other takeaway is that everybody's coming from the same space, right? I
Right.
mean, I'm actually going to be walking the exhibit hall floor because there are primes, there are, teaming agencies that, I'm going to want to work with and I'm going to want to know more information about,
Right.
so we're all going to be learning, we're all going to be reaching out and wanting to make new friends and solidify friendships even more. And so
Right.
people shouldn't feel uncomfortable like oh, I'm in this all alone,
Yeah.
because we're all on the same thing. We're all going to have comfy shoes on and we're all going to
Yeah.
be having I do, instead of breath mints, I have like little breath drops, so I
Yeah.
do I
Yeah.
do the
Whatever
little
works.
drops, so
Yeah.
whatever works. Yeah.
And
So
and there's always, like, when you go to a conference, there's almost always something you can kind of commiserate with together on, you know, when I don't know if you did the Hub Zone conference, I don't remember last year, and everybody was like lost, right? And so like you're bumping into people who can't find their rooms and things like that, and you have fun with it. And there's just this camaraderie that's built around it. Or there's the positive thing, like at that same conference where the cafeteria was out of this world. It was amazing. You
Uh-huh.
know, it was the best dining of any conference I've ever been to in my life. And everybody's like, "Hey, did you try the pecan pie or the whatever?" You know, like, so like there's little things like that. But I'll give you this last bit of wisdom. Tony Robbins says this in one of his books, and it always stuck with me. He said when he was just learning how to speak, anywhere they would let him speak, he would go. He didn't care where it was, what it was for. And he would have 8, 9, 10 speaking gigs in a day, none of them paying him or anything like that. And he said, look, if the refrigerator light comes on in the middle of the night, when you open it, give it a speech. You're like, whatever you need to do to practice your craft, right? To get
Right.
better at it. Because the more practice you have, the better you get at this thing. And so whether it is talking to somebody in a booth or in a hallway or whatever, or you know, the breakfast and things like that, all those prep you to just get better when it comes time to deliver your talk, your capability brief, your 30-second, 45-second pitch, whatever it is. All of those things hone you for that. That's all working on the business. So
Right. So it's relax, breathe, enjoy the experience, and you're there to learn, have, meet new friends, meet new agencies, identify opportunities, and incorporate that in your strategic plan to move your business forward. And you know that you have subject matter experts like yourself and support team like the NVSBC here to help you kind of on that journey of VETS24. So I'm super jazzed. I'm very excited. I think it's going to be an amazing, amazing conference. So.
yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Again, it's my first Vets conference, and I've heard how much you guys put on a good show, and I know a lot of the people are going to be there. We're speaking, Josh is speaking, a whole bunch of our team is going to be there, and it's in Orlando, right? Which is, you know,
That's
there's a
right.
lot of fun in Orlando just to begin with, so it's going to be a great time.
Well, great. Well, Mike, thanks again for taking the time out to share pearls of wisdom with everyone. And this is going to be posted on the Charlie Mike page and then on YouTube as well. So everyone kind of look forward to that. And with that, I'm going to say ciao for now. And I look forward to seeing everybody at VETS24.